Welcome to the Walton Pi. Today we're going to be talking about how can I figure out which graph is a function, which is its derivative, and which is its second derivative. So that's what we're going to be going through today. And if these sorts of videos are helpful, please consider liking and subscribing because it really does help me stay motivated to make these videos, as well as giving me the ability to continue to make these videos. Okay, and with that out of the way, let's get started on this problem. So this is a problem that you might see on a test. They might give you a bunch of graphs and f of x, which one is its derivative and which one is its second derivative. So the first thing we're going to have to do is try and figure out, can we find anything where that's going to help us out with this sort of problem? So the way I would start is I would just pick one of the graphs. In this case, we're going to be starting with graph A. So that's going to be this black curve right there. And we're going to try and figure out, are there any hints that can tell us if B or C is its derivative? Well, let's look for some key pieces of information. So we have two spots where the graph of A is going to be flat. So that means that if the derivative of A is anywhere on the graph, then that means that it needs to have an intercept right about there and another intercept right about there. Neither of these functions do that, so that tells us that A cannot be our function f because the derivative is not there. If its derivative was there, we could actually figure out what it would be. Because on this section over here, because the slope is positive, that means that on our graph of the derivative of A, it would need to be up here. Something that would be positive there. Then between these two intercepts, it's going to have a negative slope, so it would be something down here. And then it's going to have a positive slope again, so it's going to be something up there. So that would be what the derivative of A would look like. But because that's not here, that means that A is most likely going to be the second derivative. So over here, if we were keeping track of what's f prime, double prime, we think that f double prime is A. And we're going to be able to check that by the end. The next thing is, now that we've looked at A, let's try and look at B and try and figure out, is B's derivative anywhere? Well, B has only one spot where its slope is going to be 0, and that's right here. So right about here, its graph. Well, A has an intercept, so that means that A is probably the derivative of B. But then the question is, can we prove that that's going to be the case? Well, what we have is the slope at A, or the slope of B is then going to be positive from here on. So because of that, that means that the graph of its derivative needs to be above the axis on that entire section, which it is. So that means that that piece agrees, and then the other piece that's going to also agree is that the slope before the intercept is going to be negative, because this graph is coming down, and the graph of A is below the axis there. So that means that all of those different pieces are in fact agreeing, so B needs to be directly above A. So in this case, since we think that A is the second derivative, that means we probably think that B is the first derivative, which leaves us with C to probably be our function f, but we need to make sure. So if we look at C, we have a few different spots where the slope of C is going to be 0. We have one out here, and we have another one about here, which means that the derivative needs to have an intercept right about there, and also right about there, which it does. So both of those are the case. And then secondly, between those two intercepts, the slope is going down, which means that the graph of its derivative should be below the axis, which it is. And then on the other sides of those axes, the graph is increasing and increasing, so it should be above the x-axis, which it is. So that means that our function f is going to be C, our derivative is B, and our second derivative is A. And that would be the sort of process that we would be able to go through to figure out which of these functions were which. Thanks so much for watching. If this was helpful, please consider subscribing. And if you really liked it, please like the video. If you have other videos you'd like me to go over, please leave those in the comment section down below. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day and good luck with all of your math.